I was teaching the civil rights movement this week onto your Instagram, and I saw a series of videos from you where you are talking about how you feel like we are in that moment in history again, where we are on that bridge for that great march from Selma to Montgomery, where we are getting on those buses like they were in Ohio into the deep South, the Freedom Rides. Can you talk more about
Yeah,
that?
so
'Cause
I
that was
grew
really
up
inspiring to me.
I grew up in
Yeah,
Oxford, Butler County,
yeah.
also where JD Vance grew up. We both grew up in Butler County. We both live in
Wow,
Cincinnati.
wow.
Very different paths after
Yeah,
that. I went to
yeah,
divinity school. He went to Silicon Valley, and
yeah.
now he wants to take over the world and
Yeah.
have the super powerful sort of run some new
Hmm.
world order. I
Yeah.
don't really
Pretty much
understand.
the opposite of what you're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
The
So
opposite.
for
Yeah.
me, I'm still 100% ride or die on
Yeah.
democracy.
That's so good. Wow. It's so rare these
Yeah,
days
so,
in America. Yeah. You like democracy.
I'm a
Cool.
big fan,
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
and so, but I grew up, where some of the Freedom summer
Hmm.
buses launched,
Yeah.
including Schwarmer, who
Yeah.
was one of the kids that were killed,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they were going down to Mississippi to register people to vote,
Yeah. Yeah.
and growing up, there was this question that happened, well before I was born. But there's this question: would you have gotten on the
Yes.
bus?
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
Jewish. He was Jewish.
Yeah.
Would you? And I've always thought, well, yes. And then you're like,
Mm.
but would you have? Like, it's
Hmm.
so dangerous. Would your mom have
Hmm.
even let you get on the bus?
Right.
And
Right.
so it's
Right.
always been sort of top, in back there in my
Yeah.
in my brain of like,
Mm.
is that part of the question in these moments? Do you get on the bus?
Yeah.
And then we went to Selma a couple months ago and got to walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, which is where John Lewis and King and others marched in 1965
Yeah.
to secure voting rights,
Hmm.
voting protections, which they did. And they did
Yeah.
in part because there was this moment, Bloody Sunday, where the
Hmm.
entire country saw these peaceful demonstrators who wanted to secure their fundamental right to vote.
Hmm.
They were met with violent resistance from law enforcement. John Lewis gets his skull cracked open and then comes back a couple days later with King. They're going to march again. They don't know whether or not they're going to be greeted with the same kind of violence.
Yeah.
So King sits down and prays, and there is
Yeah.
it's just so powerful. Like Bloody Sunday, the second time, the third time they cross the bridge, they walk 5 days to Montgomery,
Mm.
and King gives one of the most remarkable, uplifting speeches. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that like they,
Yeah.
and I think this is one of those moments again where you're like, but I feel like we're on this bridge,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
and they had this decision: do you go forward, even though on the other side it's incredibly risky?
Hmm.
There's danger, and but of course you have to, because they're fighting for their part of democracy, and
Right.
I feel like we're fighting for
Yeah.
democracy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and for an economy where wealth and power belongs to people, not
Yeah.
this tiny group of super wealthy, crazy billionaires, tech folks, and the big corporations and the folks who run these big corporations. But it belongs to us.
Yeah.
That the power comes back to people, and
Yeah.
wealth.
Yeah.
And so like, we have, that's me saying, like, I think this is one of those moments where we're
Yeah.
on the bridge, and we have to keep
We
going,
have to keep marching
and we have to
across.
keep
Yeah.
fighting until we fix the economy. Power and wealth, and our democracy, power and wealth have been returned back to people.
Mhm.